All right. Welcome back. Q&A number 3. AMA number 1. I've renamed it. What's the difference between an AMA and a Q&A? No one cares. It's all the same. So what's in the name is in the name. But welcome back. Q&A, AMA, doesn't really matter. We're going to do this again because I have a blast with it and you people keep sending me your questions. So keep doing that so I can do these because I'm having a lot of fun with them. Now, episode will be edited just to make it a little bit more smooth. You know the drill if you've seen the previous ones. If this is your first time, welcome. This is episode 101. We've been doing this for a while. Sit down, get comfy. I'll do the same, and let's get started.
Beyond coding.
If you could start your career over, what would you focus on and what would you do differently? Now, I like that question because I might not have an answer that you would expect because I don't know what I would do differently. I kind of like the flow of my career, how I ended up here, starting off really broad, not knowing what I wanted to do. I can say like I might have started out in software development, which I did not. But throughout operations, I actually learned a lot of the operational side, like you tend to do, which has helped me as a developer in kind of big picture thinking. Because I feel like when you start out as a software engineer, you're a person that executes, right? You create, your software works, and that's usually it. And then as you move into more senior positions or as you get more experience, you tend to use that tool of like execution more versatile and actually when it's most apt. I think that's the biggest skill that people underestimate is that you can solve a lot of problems, yes, but if the problems don't need to be solved, then don't solve them, right? If your piece of software runs and it solves a problem, then it's good, then it adds value. But if your piece of software just adds to the complexity and it doesn't actually solve the problem, then what are you doing, right? You're just delivering something that no one is going to use at the end of the day. So what I tended to do was when a new feature would come up, and it would be a difficult one, so it might be my personal bias, but I would ask, like, why are we doing this, right? How many users is going to impact? Because I might not have wanted to do that. I'll just leave it at that. But also it needs to have impact for users, right? If we have a platform for hundreds of thousands of users and this is only a small slice, then it really needs to be worth it compared to the other things we can also do. Because there's always going to be work. There's always going to be a lot to do. So you have to prioritize and pick what adds the most value. And I think having those conversations, because you are the person that creates, you can have those conversations with the people that do the big picture thinking and that are more so responsible for priorities. And that dialogue is the most valuable part. So if you can't have that dialogue, then the team might not be for you or the organization might not be for you because then you're just an executioner, right? People that just execute, I feel like, shouldn't be just programmers. We do a lot of thinking work. Programming is not just typing on a keyboard. It's a lot of thinking, which also ties into the big picture thinking of things. So you need to have those discussions, and there's where your value is as well. So, did I answer the question? That's always what I wonder when I go on one of these rants. What would I do differently? I would start the podcast probably earlier, just because I'm having so much fun with this. I feel like it has a lot of benefits has had a lot of benefits in my career because I started this, in meeting new people and getting more comfortable in public speaking, in just thinking out loud of certain topics and having those authentic conversations also allows me to reflect on what I actually think. Because sometimes you think you know what you think, and then you have a conversation and you're like, oh, this is what I actually think. Or when someone asks you a smart question, you're like, okay, these are my thoughts. Maybe that's just me. But yeah, I think starting the podcast earlier is something I would change just because it was that much more fun. Now, how it would kind of look like in its infancy, even earlier in my career, I don't know if I would have the authority to have these conversations very much early in career, but I don't think it matters, right? Because the conversations in and of themselves, the curiosity in there, that's where the value is, right? And your seniority level doesn't really matter. I don't see myself as a senior person. I don't think I will ever. So maybe when I'm like 60. But I don't think it matters when it comes to podcast creation in that aspect. So yeah, that might be the one thing I would change. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy where I ended up. But yeah, I usually, that's like my philosophy in life. Would I change something? Not really. I like the outcome. And otherwise, I'm in control, right? So I can change the outcome as well. How valuable did you find having the podcast as an engineer in terms of personal development and giving back to the community? So let's start with personal development. There's a few things that because of this, I've gotten better at. And one of them is public speaking. Just by virtue of having these conversations while having a camera on you, I feel like I've gotten opportunities to host events. I've gotten opportunities to speak at some stuff, which I'm really excited because that's going to be in the future. I've stood on stage probably the first time late last year, and it's all because I've gotten more comfortable in speaking. And I didn't used to be like that, especially in high school or uni. I would be like, oh, we need to give a presentation. I'll just put in an extra hour or more so, several hours, so I don't have to do that. So someone else in my team would have to do that. If it would be me, I would just really look at that dauntingly because I did not like standing in front of a class, standing in front of teachers and speaking publicly. How small that is, in my mind, it was really, really big. And I don't know why. I just never was comfortable in it, which probably makes sense because if you don't do it, you're not comfortable, and then you don't want to do it because you're not comfortable. So this allowed me to actually cultivate that skill of public speaking, and do so and take baby steps and get better at that, which is the first one, I think the first and foremost one that I've gotten real good at. Otherwise, it's probably big picture thinking because having these conversations, I mean, the benefit of it is genuine curiosity, right? I can really ask questions of what pops in my mind because I'm interested in that and I'm wondering what someone's perspective is, and I can learn from that, and hopefully the listeners as well. But I'm learning as well, right? Because these conversations are not rehearsed, otherwise they would never work. So whatever pops in my mind and whatever someone's speciality is or what the topic of conversation is, that's what we talk about. And it gives me a perspective because I've gotten this feedback as well. Some of the episodes are like a coaching session because I'm like, okay, this is what's going on in my day-to-day, in my work life. What do you think about this? When it comes to team size, oh, I'm in a project with a bigger team right now and I feel the pain points and I've been in smaller teams. So I'm like, okay, how do we fix this? Or what are your thoughts? Or is this always like the case? Or is it just like my unique circumstances? But those are like coaching sessions. So it's really big picture thinking that I've gotten throughout that. I love talking about organizational culture and stuff like that. Why things happen, why things happen the way they do, or why people do the things they do, right? That behavioral science that's behind that, or that's backing that, I feel like. That interests me. And it might be a kind of current point in time. But the benefit of it is I can just go to wherever my curiosity drives me and learn from that. I don't know if I would classify that as big picture thinking, but I do feel like that learning journey has led me to think about things differently from a bigger sense, maybe organizationally. So that's the second one. And then is there another one? It's just meeting a lot of really cool people, really enthusiastic people. I've learned that the community is not as, it's really big, but it's still smaller than I thought it would be. Like people know each other. And I've heard several people refer to several other people. Maybe it's the network or the space that I'm in. But I think that's just really awesome. Building those relationships. I'm horrible at building relationships and maintaining them because, I mean, sounds kind of douchey, I feel like, but I just do not spend the time and energy and continuously do so. Like, when a colleague leaves and they're like, let's stay in touch. I say that, but I also say, like, if you really want to stay in touch, I need help because I'm horrible at that. I don't know what it is. I need to spend more time and energy on that. And maybe it's not a priority. I don't know where it comes from, but I'm really bad at that. So then when those people put in the extra effort, then we maintain those relationships. But otherwise, I'm horrible at it. And this podcast is for me like how do you say that? Like a relationship builder, I feel like. And we do stay in touch. And I do see messages here and there. And we keep having conversations with the people that I've had on, which is really, really enjoyable. Getting better at speaking. Like no ums, simple pauses, allowing for like a train of thought. I think I've gotten better at that as well. When those people or you have a few people around you that just fill up the silence with an and they go on and they're like actually or like, and man, like I've re-listened to myself so many times because I edited the podcasts so many times that I'm like, stop doing this. I would tell myself on camera, stop doing this. or not on camera, on screen, or just, yeah. And it's hopefully it's gone now. It still pops up. And when it does, I notice it. But I've gotten better at speaking. So the second part of that question, when it comes to the community, I feel like it's hard for me to say because I feel like the conversations that we have, hopefully they are valuable. And just by virtue of people tuning in, watching the videos or listening, I hope they are of value. But I only know when people give me the feedback. And the feedback is great, don't get me wrong, but I don't know how much of an impact it is actually making. It's kind of hard to quantify that in metrics, right? Because I can see it in the metrics, but then what is the actual outcome, right? Because metrics are just output. That's based on a recent conversation. Yeah, but I don't know. Like a lot of people have told me when I reach out to some guests, they tell me they know about the podcast, so they've seen it. But what the impact actually is, I don't know. There are some comments, and there have been comments that said, listen, I'm a new, how do you say that? I'm starting out, I'm going to uni, or I've started my learning journey with regards to software development, or I'm switching careers and I'm learning a lot about all of these things, or even I'm listening to you and practicing my English because it's not my native language and I'm in the tech field. Those are all comments and feedback I've gotten. And I love that. Like that just makes my day when I see that. So with regards to that, yeah, I hope we're giving back a piece of to the community, right? Because I feel like a lot of people take, not a lot of people give back. Point was always to share knowledge. Yeah, I'll just leave it off at that. Giving back to the community, hopefully so. If so, let me know in the comments below. I'm going to bundle these questions. One is, congrats with episode 100. What's next for the podcast? And then also, what is the end goal? Now, when it comes to what's next for the podcast, because episode 100 was always kind of a major milestone, and episode 1000 is like unreachable territory, I don't really have goals for the podcast. Like I can kind of steer on metrics, I feel like, or vanity metrics, more active listeners, more viewers, more subscribers, stuff like that. But what I really want is for this podcast to have impact in the people's lives, right? And the only way we can do that is by improving the quality of the show. Now, I have no clue how to do that because I feel like hopefully the quality of the conversations are already high. I hope they are. I think they are, but it's not my opinion to judge. Mine is just one. So then what can we do better? I don't know. If you have an idea, let me know, but I just want to do more. I love doing the conversations. Everything around it sometimes is a bit more, how do you say that? I get less enthusiastic about, but the conversations is where the gold is. That's where I love doing what I'm doing. So I want to do more of that. Now, when it comes to the end goal, someone told me this, like they said, because I posted this on LinkedIn, episode 100 was not just episode 100. It's also a streak. We've done 100 episodes week to week, back to back, with never a break in there. And that was always one of my requirements. If we're going to do this, we're going to be consistent. And I'm really proud to say we've done that subsequently, continuously for 100 episodes. Then one of my colleagues, or old colleagues, who we still keep in touch with, he said, I'm really proud of you. And it shows that you're really a marathon runner, right? This is not a sprint. So with that in mind, when it comes to the end goal, I have no clue. But we're just going to keep running this marathon for as long as I can do it. And for as long as I'm having fun with it. And so far, I don't see an end in sight. End goal, world domination, Joe Rogan podcast level of exposure and audience and impact. That will be awesome. But yeah, that feels really, really unreachable. So I would love to take this podcast broader. And I don't know if I can do it under the umbrella that it is now, like Beyond Coding and sponsored by the company that I work for, Xebia. But yeah, there's a lot of personal interests that I would love to discuss on the podcast as well. But I feel like that's a different format for maybe even a different audience. So maybe in the future would be really cool though. Patrick Akil podcast. PAP.
The Patrick Akil experience.
Yeah, PAE. Patrick Akil experience.
Jamie better watch his back. I'm coming for his neck.
Exactly. I already have my Jamie. It's Roald. It's Ralph. It's man has many names, but it's Roald.
Ralph?
Yeah. Are you a native English speaker. No, I am not. No. My parents both come from Turkey, which means I am Turkish, basically. They never raised me bilingually, so I was raised first and foremost with Dutch. Now I could not speak to my relatives who were living in Turkey, and I played a lot of video games. I watched a lot of cartoons in English with Dutch subtitles, and video games and cartoons with English voice. How do you say this? Cartoons that are Englishly dubbed with Dutch subs just taught me English really, really fast at a very early, young age. Because if I would get stuck at a video game, I would just get pissed off, ask my parents, what does it say? What does it mean here? Because I couldn't read the English. I could read Dutch, but they would translate it to me, and I would just keep playing my video games. And in my head, it all made sense. So then also when I would speak to relatives, it would be in English, not in Turkish. And my mom would get feedback like, why is your kid speaking in English and not Turkish? Like, what happened here? Why does he not speak Turkish? And I didn't really care. I loved English. I didn't really like Dutch that much because I felt like, really weirdly, at a specifically young age, I felt like the medium in English was better than when it was dubbed in Dutch. Just because I was probably exposed to that really, really early on. So I would always watch stuff, the content, in its native language. Now that might also tie into why I love anime, and specifically in Japanese, but that's a different topic, different conversation. Now, that's probably why I picked up English at a very young age. And the way my actual probably voice or the accent got better, because it was probably kind of Dutch English very early on, is I worked with a guy that originally came from London. Now, in working with this guy, it was about a year, I picked up a lot of his accent subconsciously. Like, I have no clue, but I was very British after that 1 year. And I got feedback specifically about that. They were like, why are you faking this accent? And I'm like, I'm not doing this on purpose. And now it's morphed to what it is now. So will it change in the future? I hope not. But it might be. It might change. So yeah, that's probably why the English is as good as it is. I don't think it's perfect. I make a lot of mistakes, especially when I'm tired, or if you've seen previous episodes, I just fumble some words. So yeah, that's it. When it comes to work-life balance, how much do you work remote and how much do you go to the office? Now, this varies on a week-to-week basis, but I basically have one day where I go back to the office, specifically because I'm a consultant and I work for a client, and I think it's good to have those relationships in person. So every Wednesday, I go to their office, basically, not my own. Now, the office that I'm in now is the Exhibia office in Hilversum. And I only go here when I need to, when I have important conversations that I want to be here in person. That's my judgment call. Or when I have to record the podcast, because I want to record the podcasts in person, not calling in and dialing from home. So those are the only times I come into the office. Now, when it comes to work-life balance and more so remote working, I last year worked for a month in Barcelona because I could, and I wanted to experience what it's like to work abroad. And I can tell you, short answer, very addicting, a lot of fun, different cultures. I had to figure out that the supermarkets were closed on Sunday, so didn't have food on Sunday. It was colder than I expected, so I had to wear all my clothes that I brought because I was like, Barcelona is going to be summer. Well, it was April, and it was still very, very cold. Now, lots of learnings there. But the work part actually went really, really well, better than I expected, which was, I'm really happy about that. I could really just focus. I took some days off, obviously, to figure out, not figure out. I took some days off, obviously, to also explore the city because I had never been to Barcelona in that aspect. And I still wanted to experience the city to its fullest. But every time I stepped or put my laptop away, went outside, I wouldn't say I was on vacation, but I was exploring a new city, which might be also what you do in vacation, basically. And that experience was awesome. Now, this year, because I said it was addicting, I'm going to do that again. All of May, I'll be in Portugal, specifically in Lagos. I've never been to Portugal, never been to Lagos. Recently found out there's a time difference with regards to the Netherlands. I probably should have known that, but it's like a -1 hour, so it should be fine. But yeah, I'm going to work from there completely remotely, not go into the office then for the whole month, and experience the city as well as what it is working abroad again. And I'm thinking of going back to Barcelona in September. But we still have to figure that out. I feel like if you have the opportunity, it might not present itself to you. Sometimes you have to create the opportunity. No one told me, hey, Patrick, if you want to do this, you can do this. I was like, I want to do this. Can we do this? How do we do this? And I made it happen. I feel like with regards to a lot of things that you want in life, you have to do it or you have to create the opportunity as well. So fun little tidbit. Whenever I talk to colleagues, they were like, what is the policy for that? And I'm like, there is no policy. Make it happen. If you want it, go do it. That's it. If you couldn't do the podcast anymore due to circumstances, I mean, just assuming, what would you do instead? Now, I like this question because I really like the podcast. If that were to disappear, there's going to be a big hole that I feel like needs to be filled with some kind of creativity, content related wise. I've been recently thinking, or not so recently, about starting my own YouTube channel, about vlogging, about food, about my life. Maybe even in the tech space, maybe not, maybe more personal. But I feel like that urge would get bigger if I couldn't do the podcast anymore. So I would probably pick that up. For people that do not know, I am involved in a second YouTube channel as well with my girlfriend. It's workout video related, and I edit all those videos. So that's the second channel already. So I feel like YouTube is already something that is in my life. It's kind of intertwined. And if the podcast were to disappear, I would probably buy a camera, start vlogging, start really, really hating the early videos, but then incrementally improve, put them out there, and hopefully, very hopefully, add some value in there for people to view, entertainment-wise, content-wise, something like that. I would love to do food review videos. Go to restaurants, be like, oh, I love this food. I would have to improve on my food vocabulary, but that's a distant dream. Or, obviously, like travel videos, travel vlog videos, travel to a hotel, have the hotel be paid for because of YouTube money and exposure, and then talk about the hotel and the experience. Like that, very, very distant dream. But that would be really cool. Maybe that's an answer to a different question. How does a new software engineer make themselves valuable as an employee in this era of AI and machine learning? Now, this probably was related to the episode that we did on ChatGPT, or just because ChatGPT is everywhere, it's probably related to that, right? And as a new software engineer, I can see that this tool really looks like it's going to steal your job. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I feel like the jobs or the work that you're going to do is going to evolve. I think we touched on that in the episode as well. I feel like it's going to evolve, and what is going to be more important is aptly using this tool, because I don't think it's going to be in a stage where it can replace. It still needs human judgment. It's evolving and scarily fast, so it might be. But what I think now for new software engineers is really try to figure out how to best use this tool, how to leverage it to gain the knowledge yourself, how to be effective and productive with it. Still try and understand why it's doing the things that it's doing, but it's helping you with the how, right? Because if you have to build a new feature, you have to store data, you have to expose an API, you have to build something visual. You really focus on, okay, how am I going to get this done? If it's a really complex visual design, you're like, how are we going to do this? All right, what do I need? What libraries? What packages? How do I structure this? How does this even work? All right, and as you do that more and more, as you go more and more in depth, as you talk to more team members, as you refine it more, you figure out how to do it. Same for the backend stuff. If you have to figure out how to do a specific API, maybe you're going to do GraphQL and you've always been doing REST. You have to figure out things, how to do it from the first, how do you say it? How to do it the first time, basically. And even the second time, because we Google everything, and even the third time sometimes, and even more so. Sometimes, like if I need to use regex, I've probably used it 50 times, still don't know how to do it, and I will always Google that or ChatGPT that now. But some frustration with regex, I guess. Where was I? You will always try and figure out how to do it. Now, this tool can really help you because you ask it a question. How do I do X, Y, and Z? And it's going to give you one of the possibilities. Now, that's a very important one because it's going to give you one of the options. There's always multiple options, and that's where you come in. You have to judge the option based on your context or give it more context and get more options. And at some point, you're going to have to decide. And you are going to be the one that learns from it. is this the right option? What can we do differently? I saw different options. How would that impact it? Right? And it's going to help you with the how, which means it's going to make you more productive. Now, what you need to do probably is still figure out what are we doing in the first place, right? Really understanding the application that you're building, the impact that it's going to have on customers, the user experience. If you put a feature out there and no one can find it, it is not a good feature, basically. So really understand the thing that you're building, the domain of it, and then why we're doing it in the first place. What impact does it have? What does it add to the people, the features, to the customers or the users? That is where you come in as well. The whole context of the operation. And I feel like with seniority, you more and more think of that just by virtue of your sphere of influence kind of growing in more so senior leadership positions. It doesn't have to be. You can still be really, really good at how, but usually you leverage that in those conversations and talk about the what and why, basically. And I feel like with new software engineers, with the up and coming technology that AI and machine learning provides, it's going to more so navigate, it's going to more so trend towards the what and why faster, right? Because you get less time to figure out how to do things. You have more tools to help you with the how. So that natural trend of thinking about the what and why is just going to be accelerated. Still, that is my belief, and it might be wrong. I have no clue, but I feel like that is the trend. If the AI productivity tools get to a point where they can do a lot more, they can contextualize the what and the why, they just give perfect answers, then your role will still change and evolve. So I don't think we should be afraid. I think we should embrace, right? Because it's going to make you a better software engineer by the end of the day. Not by by the end of the day, but at the end of the day. So learn from it. Use it as a tool in your toolbox, I feel like, and leverage it when it comes to your own knowledge. When it comes to software engineering and building a product, what is the one thing you'll never actually want to do? This is an interesting one because I feel like when a team is not operating as smoothly, I tend to fit in those gaps. Like if it's a specific process that I feel like can be improved, if it's a certain communication that needs to happen between team members in alignment, if we need clarity to build a certain feature, if things are not cleared up or people, whatever that might be, I feel like I've jumped in and I've tried to fix it, which is me filling in the gaps. Now, when it comes to the whole process, what I would never actually want to do is more so the visual design of things. I feel like it requires a certain sense of creativity and also experience, obviously. I've done front-end development, so that was as much, how do you say that? I've done front-end development, so I have experience more so building visual things, but thinking of how the visuals are going to look, the branding, the look and feel, even the user experience to some degree, because I love thinking about user experience, but figuring out the strategy of why things are the way they are and having it make sense and really leveraging the theory behind it. I feel like it is a different job and it is a different skill that I might still be able to do or want to do, but the visual aspect is just really, really hard. What typography, the brand look and feel, even the colors. You might not know this, but I'm partially colorblind. So like red, green, for me, sometimes it's all the same. That's really hard with bouldering because we have a lot of colors. I'm like, can I use this? Can I use that? And I feel like it might be a cop out, but the visual side of things, also by virtue of being partially colorblind, is going to be really, really difficult. So if I would have an option, I would never, ever, ever want to do that part. Also, I've worked with really, really great people. Hopefully I could be able to bring those in for some guidance if I actually have to do that. But I don't think I ever will. Who or what has inspired me most throughout my career? I think this has changed and it is ever changing because I appreciate a lot of the people that have given me guidance and have really taken the time to spend extra time with me, right? The extra time and effort and energy and attention that I would want because I would pull it from them, basically. But for them to give it is a different thing, right? Throughout your journey, and I feel like throughout my career as well, you will always see people that you look up to At least that's how I put it to words. People that are really good at the thing I also want to be really good at. And when it was operations, there was this one guy that would just get everything done, that would leverage whatever he had, move parts of the organization, think about it strategically, build those relationships. And I was like, if I'm going to be doing this for the long haul, I really, really want those skills. I want to be like that guy doing the things that he's doing. So I really tried to work as much as possible with that person. The same when it comes to software engineering. I looked up to a lot of people early on and still, and I tell them, this is why I want to work together with you. This is what I hope to learn from you. And some people really get awkward. Maybe I shouldn't do that. But that's why I think it's really hard to pick one. It depends on the stage of my career, but every stage has had people that have inspired me and that have allowed me to grow. And I feel like also at some point, I grew so much that I was like, okay, with these people, I feel equals might not be the right word, but I feel like I've learned what I wanted to learn here, right? I'm not at their level. I'm comfortable at the level where I am at, and my goals change and I want to do something else. And that might or might not require me to work with other people. So that's why it's always kind of shifted. When it comes to the people that have inspired me the most, it's always changed throughout my career. Like I just appreciate the most probably the people that were at the very, very earliest stage in my career. So that was then in operations, weirdly enough, because that's really when I started working, coming out of uni, going into a team, having no clue. Man, people in the tech space love acronyms, like 3-letter words for everything. I would have a huge sheet with all the translations because I was like, someone says PSA, TSA, AMA, Q&A, all those things. You can kind of figure it out. Some of those no. And especially in tech, all of those can mean different things. If it's a Q&A, it might be a quality and assurance, not a question and answer. But yeah, you have to figure that out for yourself. So I would write down all of those things, learn through that, and people would be like, I actually think that might have been an advice from someone. Write down all the acronyms because we got a lot. But just those little tidbits. There was one person in specific, Robert de Jong, in operations. And it's hard to pick the most, but if I had to pick one, that might be it, just because it was that earliest of early experiences when it came to kind of coaching and mentorship. And we stayed at the office so many times to really, really late. Like I would leave at the office at 7 or 8, or we would order food and keep talking about either work or more personal stuff for a whole year. And then even more because I changed positions within the organization. I was no longer with him in his team. And then still I would go to him and talk about my side of things. And he would relate and reflect and talk about the strategics behind the organization or why things are happening or why people do the things they do, which really helped me, I feel like, early on and has always helped me later on. This mindset of you can do anything you put your mind to. You can move the organization. You can leverage. It's not bad to escalate. Fight for what you think is right. I feel like that drive was always in there, but it's kind of been fueled, this flame, by having those conversations with him in specific. That's not to take away from the people that have always guided me throughout my software engineering path, but that was just the earliest of early experiences. So maybe it's the nostalgia. How would your 10-year-old self react to what you do now? React to what I do now. Disbelief. Talking to people, being on camera, being comfortable with that, speaking so, I feel, eloquently and fluently. It would probably be disbelief because I always, especially early on, looked up to adults. I was like, they got their stuff together. I didn't say stuff, I said shit probably. They got their shit together. And I feel like I never got it. I feel like sometimes still I don't have my shit together. I think that's fine. And I've learned to accept it. And probably the biggest disbelief was when I went from uni to kind of the work environment. I was like, people don't know. Some people don't know what they're doing. And they're doing things day in, day out. The same thing over and over again. So especially when I was 10, I was like, man, if I ask an adult, they know it. I don't know how, but they know it. Or they'll give me some old people wisdom. And I thought people in 30 were old. Man, I'm getting old. But it would be really disbelief. because I think, especially then, especially at a young age, ooh, standing in front of a class was a big no-no. No, I just want to play video games. I thought I was going to be a video game developer, create video games. I would still love to do that. But yeah, I think it would be disbelief. What do I remember most about my first job? Now I'm going to take this as to not say the operations job because that's coming out of uni. But I had one job. I had two jobs in uni. And then when I was 16, I had my first job, which was still the job I had in uni. It was, how do I explain this? It was like a waiter. I did everything. I cooked, I cleaned, I brought people their food. I was working at a fish and chips restaurant in Volendam, which for people that don't know the Netherlands, Volendam is like on the shore part. It's very touristy. So we would have buses with different cultures coming in at the same time. And we would go from 0 to 100 when it comes to making food and giving food and letting people pay and stuff like that. And I would take orders. I would do the dishes. I would plate the food. I would cook the food sometimes because I was not the main chef. And I would bring the people their food. I would take away dirty dishes. Like it was a lot of hard work. And it's because I never wanted to work at a supermarket and stock shelves and do all that stuff. I thought that was boring. I still think it's boring. But if you have one of those jobs, we need you. But,
yeah, fuck off.
I'm sorry, Roald. I'm sorry.
Nah. This is not forgiven,
for
man. The people from the fucking supermarkets will not forget.
The people from the supermarkets, we need you. But it was not gonna be me. That was my main takeaway. So yeah, my mom said, "You're gonna work as soon as you turn 16. It's good experience. You're gonna find yourself a job." So I had an interview at Artis, which is the zoo in Amsterdam, where my dad used to work as a security guard. Got fired in COVID, but different story. Stay on the track. All right. Yeah, I was there. I was 16. The second youngest was like 19. So when I realized that, I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm never going to get this job. So then I had to wait we had a whole tour, and then I had to wait in like a waiting room with all of the people that wanted this job. It's like working at a souvenir shop and taking pictures for people. And I was dead last. I could not believe it. And then when I came in, the people really wanted me to role play how I would take a school of kids and take a picture of them. And they would play the kids. And they acted like kids who don't listen to adults. It was really, really weird. So needless to say, I did not get that job. Now, I have a lot of siblings, and I would pick up one of my siblings from school. And my mom used to, how do I say this? One of my siblings' friend was, how do I say this in English? One of my siblings' friend, their parents, also the friend, was one of our neighbors. And one of those neighbors, basically my neighbor. But this is really, really hard apparently. My neighbor owned the fish and chips shop. So connected with him, connected with his girlfriend. I'm interested in this job. My mom basically connected with the girlfriend and said, my son is looking for a job. She said, one of our main guys is sick. Can you go now? And I was like, no interview. I just picked up one of my siblings, or actually brought them to school because this was morning. Can I go now? I didn't eat anything that day. I looked horrible because, I was off and I had to bring my siblings to school. So, they start at like 8:30 or 9. So, yeah, I just dressed up. I don't know if I even took a shower, but details. And I said, yes. I was like, yeah, I can start. No problem. I didn't eat. So then we went there. I had no clue what to do. She was like, oh, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to prepare all the food. Because if you don't know, if you work at a restaurant, it's hard to call this a restaurant, but we could seat like 60 people, probably even more. If you can seat 60 people and they come in at the same time, your preparation is kind of make or break. So we were really busy in the morning with all the preparation. I was washing everything to make sure everything was clean. People came in and it was like, okay, these are the menus. This is how you play. Do it, blah, blah, blah. Take away the food. The whole day flew by so fast. I didn't even eat until it was like 3 or 4. And they were shocked I hadn't eaten yet. And I could eat from the food supply. But yeah, that was the first day. That was the job, okay? This whole layout was just to describe the job that I had. Now, the single thing I remember most was we worked on top of the dike. How do you say dike? Dike?
Yeah, a dike.
A dike. On top of the dike, which overlooks the water and has a lot of the touristy shops. Next to us was the jewelry, or actually a staircase leading up to the dike and then a jewelry. Now, I was cleaning the windows like I did every morning, and I saw 3 people on a scooter. I was like, that's fucking weird. And they walked up and they put on the, is it a balaclava? It's like a bivakmuts in Dutch. Balaclava, basically. And walked up the thing. And I was like, what did I just see? And we had my boss's aunt, she was like 70. She was smoking next to the staircase because the staircase leads down. They pushed her inside and said, get the hell inside. And I was like, okay. So she came up yelling, but she always yells, so no one took her seriously. And she said, they're going to rob the place next to us. Because that's what she thought, obviously. If you take that stairs and there's a jewelry next to them, they're going to rob the place. So I basically confirmed. I was like, yeah, I saw the people. And all of a sudden we heard a gunshot. And yeah, that's the first time in my life ever. That's the first time ever I've heard a gunshot. It's not common here in Holland. So I was like, what the hell are we going to do? We basically ran inside. We tried to find cover. I peeked my head outside. I saw one guy like randomly pointing a gun, which means the other 2 people were inside. And they tried to rob the place. They like smashed the window. And when you do that, just so you know, if you ever want to rob a place, that's when the alarm goes off, automatic alarm, shuts everything down so you can't grab anything. So they didn't really grab anything. And then they ran down the stairs and they ran off with their scooter. Now, the whole time, because we knew there was a robbery, one of the main guys that was in charge, because the boss wasn't there, he was on the phone with the police, saying like, they're robbing the place. Get here as fast as possible. Now, apparently, as fast as possible in Dutch police terms, not always, but in this case, means we're going to be there in like half an hour, 45 minutes. Not with all the reinforcements I thought they would come with, but with one truck, basically. And the guy couldn't come out because he was waiting on other people. I don't really know the story. Now, they asked me to, how do you say this? Describe the people. And I had a really hard time because I didn't really get a good look. And I don't think they actually found the people. That's one of the things I remember most. Now, interestingly enough, they have this TV show where they talk about crimes that have happened. So I started very, very early, one of the mornings on the weekends, around 7:30. And about at 8, a bus rolled up and a camera crew came out. And they were trying to reenact this whole scene with the staircase and blah, blah, blah. Because I asked them, what are you filming? Because I was interested. They were like, yeah, we're going to do it and blah, blah, blah. It's going to be on that TV show. I was like, fine. Okay. Now, one of the people that was there on the day that it happened with the gunshot and everything, he started a bit later. He started at 9 and he drops his bike off at the bottom of the staircase. Now, when they were filming, they obviously had the people with the bivakmuts, the balaclava and the guns again. And they walked up the stairs exactly as he drove up and he wanted to place his bike there. So he was in shock, obviously. He was like, this is the second time the shit is happening. Why? And then they had to be like, no. We're filming. Okay, calm down. This is not real. So if there is anything I remember was the gunshot and then the aftermath of the whole publication. I saw it on TV. It was not as good as I thought it would be. Very dramatic. Wasn't that dramatic. But yeah. Long answer. Long story. On that note, we're going to round it off here. Thank you so much. Q&A number 3, AMA number 1, rebrand all around. I'm going to call it AMA from now. AMA number 1. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Leave some comments if you have thoughts. See you on the next one.